Well, we did it. I wasn't totally sure we were going to, but we made it to the end of 2025, and what an incredible year it has been. This channel continues to supersede my expectations. When I started this, I just really wanted to share my love of cars with people, and I get to do that with more and more people every single year. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, if you saw my live stream a couple of days ago, over a week ago, you'll know that the end of the year has not been super amazing. But we'll get into all that today. So we're going to do a big friggin' bottle test recap for 2025. We're going to talk about some of my favorite cars and just generally what we did over the year, as well as we will talk about next year. So that's sort of stay tuned, and I'll try to put chapter markers down below. Let's start off with the big friggin' bottle. Now, forgive me, I must look it up on my phone, but the big friggin' bottle, we tested a lot of cars. We tested every single car that we reviewed, which is, as I'll spoil, is about 380 cars plus 60 shorts. So over 400 cars we tested with a big friggin' bottle this year. 22.7% of cars that we have tested have passed, and 77.3% of cars have failed. Now, this is actually up. The percentage keeps going up for vehicles that pass. I think a lot of car makers are starting to accommodate, Yetis and Owalas, and, there's a lot of big water bottle fads kind of going on right now and in the last couple of years, which we talked heavily about in our Nissan cup holder video, which was a lot of fun to make. But generally, the trend seems to be that car cup holders are getting bigger, and so it is kind of fun to see, and a lot more cars are passing. Things that come to mind immediately, like the Lexus RX series, so like RX 500, RX 350, all of those, the door pockets pass. The Toyota GR86, the door pockets have special water bottle holders. Hondas have gotten bigger cup holders. The Passport passes and things like that. So we are starting to see more big friggin' bottle passes. If you're unfamiliar, the big friggin' bottle test, I do it in every video. I test the cup holder of every car. Even if it's an old car without cup holders, it's automatic fail. This came about in 2020. I was looking for some kind of standardized test that I could do in all of my videos. So if you click on a video and you don't care about 2002 Dodge Neons, that's fine. But you might still click on it just because you want to see if it passes the big friggin' bottle test. And so it was something that people can look for, some type of standardization, kind of fun, tongue-in-cheek. People often ask me, they're like, would you, your Mazda 3 doesn't pass the big friggin' bottle test. How are you okay with that? I'm like, I don't give a rat's behind if it passes or fails the big friggin' bottle test. It's fun. It's silly. And in 2020, my friend gifted that to me because I had a kidney stone that year, and she said that I had to drink more water, and so she got me this. She said she got it for me because it would fit in my cup holder. It did not. I went to work the next day and filmed a Ford Bronco Sport. It also did not fit in that. And this was just like me just filming. No intention of doing the big friggin' bottle test. But then later that day, I filmed a Honda HR-V, the earlier gen, and it did pass. So I thought that there was some cool method to this, and I started doing it, and now I do the big friggin' bottle test shorts, usually in cars that I'm not allowed to drive, because I've started to get invited to like first look events or reveal events or concept cars that can't be driven. I can't really do a full video in a car that can't be driven, although I've made some, exceptions to the rule this year that we'll talk about. But so that's the whole reason for the shorts. A lot of times at an event, I'll have access to, 30, 40 cars, and I only have an hour to film anything with them. So I try to, get some more content that way. So if you didn't see on the channel, I did put out a compilation of all the big friggin' bottle test shorts from 2025. It's almost a 40-minute video. We did a lot of testing in 2025. So that's it. So the percentage is rising of the pass percentage. People often ask, they're like, oh, I never see a car pass. You're probably not watching the newer videos. The newer cars tend to pass a little bit more, obviously, than the older cars. Nothing older than nothing older than 1988 has ever passed. So something to note. But getting on to the rest of the channel, we did 384 reviews in 2025. Not only is that a new record for me, but that's more than a car a day, which I am very, very proud of. Some of the notable ones, I went through just really quick and kind of made note of some. Aston Martin V8 Vantage started the year off strong with that. Not only had I not driven this generation of Vantage, but I really, really enjoyed it. And that was one of the cars I kind of grew up lusting after. So that was a cool point of pride. Dodge Dakota. Before 2025, I had never reviewed a Dodge Dakota on the channel. And this year I did 4 of them. I did all 3 generations this year, as well as 2 second-generation Dodge Dakotas. So we fulfilled that prophecy of filming a Dodge Dakota 4 times over. The GM Bright Drop, or Chevy Bright Drop, depending. I really wanted to film this car. The Bright Drop is an all-electric cargo van that Chevy was just selling at their regular dealers. I found them incredibly fascinating. I was able to actually drive 2 of them in 2025, and that to me was like a really, really cool thing. Datsun 280Z. I hadn't filmed any older Z car than the Z31, so this was a really, really cool moment for me. On the same trip, I knocked really 3 goal cars off on this one trip. I also did an AutoZam AZ1, which I had wanted to film for a very, very long time. That was really cool. And on that same trip down to Atlanta, I did a Ferrari 512 TR. So this was my first Ferrari featured on the channel. I think one of the most iconic ones and one of the coolest Ferraris there is. And also, I wasn't able to do a full video of it because of time restraints, but I was also able to drive a Ferrari 318 GTS, I believe. So I'll show some clips here of a YouTube short. I did a big freaking bottle test short of it, and he let me drive it around the block, but I had to go to the next shoot, and I had like 30 minutes, so I couldn't do a full video, and I kind of kicked myself for not, telling the next guy to wait, a half hour so I could film this car. But I want to respect everyone's time, and I know that people, take off work and people dedicate time of their day to me, so I want to be respectful of that. But that was one of those instances where I wish I would have kind of, messed up my own schedule a little bit just to have 2 Ferraris reviewed. But I've got to drive 2 Ferraris, which was great. The Fisker Ocean was also another bucket list car for me because it's not going to exist anymore. They really only made them for like 1.5 model years. And so that was something that like I just wanted to have the footage of forever and ever and ever. Because I probably won't ever drive one ever again. And I'm not sad about that, but you got to always say, I had a LC500 press car. I did the video at night. I also shot a goodbye LC500 video that I will release when the LC500 is officially out of production. I filmed it last summer. I filmed it in June of 2025. It might not come out for another year. I don't know when production's going to end, but it will end probably in the 2026 model year. And Toyota Lexus has told me that they're not going to put another LC500 into the press fleet because it's ending. So that video will come out maybe next year or something like that. The Rush SR was very, very cool. This was my first single-seater experience. Super, super cool of Rush to let me do this. I got to drive it on track. Really felt like an F1 driver. And this was it was super sweet. The Lincoln Continental Concept. This was the first concept car that I was ever able to film. Again, this is what I mean when I said I kind of can, bend the rules a little bit because I did not drive it. It did have I believe an Aston Martin V12 in it, but it did not run. It was part of a Mecum auction for a local museum. And so I was able to do a video about it. This was super cool to me. I'd never really been in a concept car. So that was just sort of a cool point of pride. And the last car that I picked out was the AutoZam Review. I had always been fascinated by this car, and I love the fact that it was called a review. So I did a review of a review, which was super fun, and I love that little thing. We were able to work with some new press car companies this year. As you guys know, I get a new car every week. I've actually been getting 2 new cars every week, and I review them on the channel. If you see the little key symbol in the bottom left corner of the thumbnail, has a P on it with a key. That means that it's a press car. So that means I was given the car for a week from the manufacturer directly. I put that little logo on the thumbnails just so you kind of know, like, it's probably a little bit longer of a video, and also it was provided by the manufacturer. I didn't get it from a dealership or, a personal car or anything like that, just to kind of symbolize that. We were able to work with Maserati, Rolls-Royce, Range Rover / Land Rover, Audi, Polestar, and BMW for the first time. So a lot of new luxury brands, which has been great. BMW, I haven't put that video out yet, but in a couple of days here, you'll see my X3 M50i review. And that was the first BMW press loan that I had ever gotten. So hopefully, hopefully continuing these relationships. I would love more Maseratis, Rolls-Royces, Range Rovers, Audis, Polestars, and BMWs. So that was super, super cool. Some of my favorite press cars, just running down the gamut. The ID Buzz was absolutely awesome, which I love. There's two press cars that my neighbors still bring up. It's the ID Buzz. They always talk about that, and my neighbors always talk about the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Rolls-Royce Cullinan, obviously another amazing press car. I mean, to have a Rolls-Royce for 5 days, that was just the coolest thing in the world. That, people often say, oh, I wouldn't buy a $500,000 car. And that's totally fair. I don't know if I would either. If you want to talk about press cars that I think about pretty much daily, that short time I had with that, I mean, even my parents, my grandparents, when, we're doing this retrospective of 2025, they're like, you had a Rolls Royce this year. And that was, that was May. So that was 6-7 months ago. People still bring it up. My neighbors still here at the end of the year bring that car up. My neighbor introduced me to someone else a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, oh, this guy had a Rolls Royce. That's the sort of weight that the Rolls Royce carries, is that still to this day it's talked about. I was at a wedding a couple weeks ago, and they're like, oh, no Rolls Royce this time, and stuff like that. So that's the sort of weight that car held, and was one of my favorites. The other one, again, early on in the year, was the Volvo V60 Polestar engineered. I absolutely adored that vehicle top to bottom. And the reason I'm laughing is because my other favorite, the ID Buzz and the V60 Polestar, both those vehicles are discontinued. So I have a track record of falling in love with discontinued vehicles, but at least the Cullinan is still available, just a little bit outside of my price range. And so those were my favorites of the year. It's been a great year. We've had close to 100 press cars. And actually right now in my driveway, which I'm pointing up to, I have an Audi Q5 and the new Dodge Charger 6-pack, which is powered by the gasoline inline 6. Which is very, very cool. So I have a bunch of press cars lined up. I should get the Honda Passport, Elantra Hybrid, the Bronco Strope Edition, which is the 2-door, but the V6. Nissan Leaf will do some fun stuff with. Trying to think of what else I have lined up. I think that's pretty much it. But now that brings me to my final segment that I want to talk about, which is changes and what's to be expected for 2026. Right off the bat, eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed, this is my new channel color for 2026. I will be wearing light blue in my reviews. If you are unfamiliar, I change the color of my shirt every single year. Two reasons for that. One, I can look back if someone just sends me a random clip, or if someone rips part of my video, I can tell what year it's from based on what I'm wearing. The second reason is the fact that I usually order 6 to 10 work shirts for the year. And I wear the same shirt in every video just so there's continuity. So if I film 8 cars in a day, it doesn't look like I sat in a parking lot and did 8 cars in a day. And you're not I'm not wearing weird stuff like a Marlboro logo, which might offend people or things like that. So I wear a work shirt. I change the color every year. But since I have 6 to 10 of them, they get beat up by the end of the year. I mean, filming over 400 videos a year, that's, 400 washes of the shirts, and they start to get pretty bad by the end of the year. So yeah, this year, 2026 is blue, light blue. That means the intro card will also be light blue. And I have changed the, not information, but when I say, I have a Patreon, you can submit your card and all that stuff, I've gone away from the Windows XP style, and now I will show it here, is actually a 1988 and 1991 Ford Taurus. I thought, just something a little bit more fun, a little bit more of the channel. I focus a lot on 80s and 90s cars. So that is the new thing for 2026. So that will be changed. Backseat reviews are also now going to be point of view instead of me sticking the camera to the windshield looking at me. Reason for this, I did an Audi S8 video in, what was that, October, November? And I did that point of view just because there was so much stuff to talk about in the back of the S8. And I got a comment that was like, every review should be like this. I could, because the comment said that they could better judge, foot space or knee space, leg space, and headroom when I did the point of view. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, so every review now for 2026 is point of view. So that should hopefully give a little bit better of an idea of space and options and things like that. And that's pretty much it. I appreciate everyone helping out with the channel. I appreciate everyone who has liked and subscribed and commented. I appreciate everyone who has given me cars to review. Thank you to all of the manufacturers who let me have their car for a week and drive it around. It's incredible. And the big piece of news, I'll end the video with this, is that as of now, I am planning in February to go to Japan. So I have my flights booked. There's still a lot of legwork that needs to happen for that trip. But that is the plan, is to do a filming trip to Japan. So I'm going to try to line up some cool Japanese cars that not only I'm trying to actually avoid 90s Japanese cars on the trip. I'm going to drive a few, but I'm trying to not focus on that and focus more on cars that we won't be able to get for several years. So I'm trying to film newer Japanese cars, but JDM stuff, I will be in the country of Japan for about 10 days. And I'm really looking forward to that, because people often ask me, what's your end goal with the channel? And that's it. Is to travel, is to do bigger trips, to Europe and to South America and to Japan, Asia, China, and all of these places, and drive their cars, and drive specifically cars that your grandma would have in Indonesia. What does an Indonesian grandma drive to the store? And learning about culture, learning about geopolitics, learning about economies through the cars of these countries. And so that's my plan, is to go to Japan and learn about the culture. And, as much as I might look at, I don't learn much of a culture through food. I feel like all food is kind of the same. And so I'm going to drive their cars. I'm going to see and feel not only what is it like to drive a Japanese car, which I've driven a lot of, but how does it exist within the context of its roads? Maybe Japanese toll booths are super narrow, and so driving a big wide car might be this awful, awful thing over there. Or, the speed limits I know over there are a lot lower than we have here. And so how does that, sort of come into mind? Is a brand new K car, a really viable form of transportation, or is it not? So I have always wanted to point this channel into an international direction, and it seems as though that is going to happen. So I am incredibly excited about it. If there's certain videos you guys want to see from Japan, let me know. I do have a press trip in January to California for the Subaru, the new Outback Wilderness, which will be exciting. I have another possible press trip to Nashville in January. That's still, the details are getting worked out, because it's not like a press trip. It's just for me, but working with a manufacturer and filming some cool stuff. So I'll keep you guys posted on all of that. But really, truly, I am so excited for 2026. I've already been offered some once in a lifetime cars that I hope I can get on video. And one other small thing, I know I'm rambling. I get a lot of comments at the beginning of the year. Oh, you stopped filming classics. Why'd you stop filming classic cars? Why is it just new? 2026 consists already of a lot of new cars. The reason for that is that it's the winter. It's the winter here in Chicago. A lot of people put their old cars away for the winter. We use tons of salt on the road, which destroys cars. And so I've also been getting press cars the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I've only been putting out classics because it's December, but now I have to put out all that footage of all the press cars that I had over the last 2 months. So you're going to see a lot of new cars at the start of the year, don't fret. Don't worry. I'm gonna film old cars again. That's what I truly love doing. I love reviewing cars from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and I love reviewing all cars, but that's still gonna be something that I do. It's just for right now. There's just not a whole lot of them out. I'm also interested in new cars. Like I said, I have the new Charger 6-pack in the driveway. I'm very curious to drive the gasoline version. So, but yeah, at the start of the year, if you're like, oh, like every other video is a 2026 model, it's going to be like that for a little bit. But I promise you that won't be the status quo for the entire year. There you go. I rambled for possibly too long. Thank you to everyone this year. I mean, really, truly, especially here at the end of the year. As some of you know, I had abdominal surgery. I got 6 inches of my intestines removed. And so still waiting on a reason for that. But it's been very slow to restart filming. I've actually only filmed 1 video after being out of the hospital last week. It's been very slow going, but I got a lot of positive messages, and a lot of people say that they're thinking of me in a speedy recovery, and I really, really appreciate all of that. So huge thank you to everyone. If you've let me borrow your car this year, thank you a million times over. If you're an OEM, thank you for the press trips. Thank you for the press cars. And I really, really, truly feel... I totally forgot. We hit 200,000 subscribers this year. That's huge. Thank you, everyone. I really, really, truly believe that this right now feels like we are just getting started. It feels like, the launch sequence of the boosters are starting, and when a rocket's going up and that bridge is falling away, that's what it feels like right now. It feels like that bridge is moving out of the way. And we're just getting started, and I really, truly believe we're going to go to the moon. So, huge thank you to everyone. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And a new review will be out tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central. We're not slowing down, so I appreciate you guys a lot, and I'll see you very, very soon. Good night, everyone.